I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So our orders get all backed up. We're drowning in paperwork, then actually drowning. Carol is fighting off sharks with a stapler, and pirates are pillaging the office copier, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant goes beyond the resume, using unique insights to deliver a smarter shortlist. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
What you can't call friendly text message banter is horrendous racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, sexism. All of this is so far alleged rather than definitive, but the LMA's statement on Malky Mackay would certainly indicate that there was some substance to the allegations.
Well, yeah, substance to the allegations. No substance whatsoever to the LMA statement. Horrendously superficial and trivialised the seriousness of what had been said. To call it light-hearted banter between mates is unacceptable, and I have to say, I think as a result, the chief executive of the LMA, Richard Bevan, should resign. I don't think anyone who's managing that process. I mean, this has gone through a process, right? Someone has written that, checked it, and signed it off, and then sent it out in the LMA's name. So the top guy should go. And Malky Mackay, well, he's, I have to say, most of the time with this, football manages to brush this kind of thing under the carpet, and I'd say, well, he wouldn't have trouble getting a job again. But I think Cardiff and Vincent Tan have played this so aggressively and so cold-heartedly, and this is revenge served cold, isn't it? That it's going to be very difficult for him to get a job in the near term, at least. It's going to take quite some time. I'm not sure there's any clubs that want to take that heat, and rightly so, because this is some of the most offensive stuff that we've allegedly heard from a football manager in a very long time.
I wish I didn't disagree. I really wish that I totally agreed with you that it's going to take him a really long time to get a job, but he'll have a championship job in 2 years, probably. I would say he'll be on beIN Sports or whoever it is that Keys and Gray work for, doing punditing in no time. We've got Ron Atkinson on MUTV, the Suarez thing, obviously. It's like football is so quick to forget, and at its core, like the leadership of football don't care about this stuff. That was what was so telling about the LMA statement, right? It was like, no, this thing's come out, and if you read the statement they put out, there's like a bunch of stuff in it that's ridiculous. One of the things it says is it was offensive to other cultures with hindsight. It's like, really? Do you actually, you mean you need to like wait till it's happened and then look back and go, oh, that horrifically offensive thing I said was potentially offensive to other cultures? Even when the LMA apologised for their horrendous statement, they said, we're sorry there was inappropriate language in the statement, and we are also sorry if it was perceived to have trivialised racism. I was like, brilliant, or something very similar to that. It was brilliant.
Non-apology, apology, classic stuff. And of course, not only did United have Ron Atkinson on MUTV, but Jim Rosenthal on MUTV as well. He once called Tessa Sanderson a spear chucker. So, along with Ron Atkinson and what he said about Marcel Desailly. So, I mean, you're right. He will get a job. It's just there's so much heat around him right now that it's definitely not going to be this summer, and it might well be some time down the line. This is a really sordid affair. I hate talking about this stuff on Rantcast, and I mean, it's removed from United, I suppose, although Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's there, and at the time, I like many people found it a little surprising that Mackay had been sacked by Cardiff, and it seemed like Vincent Tan was this nut job who'd come in, change the colours of the shirt, he'd pissed off all the fans, and then sacked the manager who'd got them promoted, and it seemed like it was excessive. In hindsight, we know exactly what happened now. Not only was he offensive to the manager's face, calling him a chinky, but allegedly, Are we alleging this still? It seems like it's pretty certain. But there had been some very dodgy transfer dealings. Now, the transfer stuff's not been resolved yet. Cardiff is still very angry about it. Vincent Tan thinks his money's been wasted, but he's got some serious revenge here. I mean, leaking this stuff to the papers, but apparently calling up Crystal Palace to warn them off.
There was a thing, one of the young players from Cardiff, a young black player, basically said, I'm so relieved that this has come out. I always felt like I was treated differently because of my colour, and people were sort of asking him about the more senior black players at Cardiff, and he went, it's completely different with senior players, but the young players were passed over. And you know, there's been a lot of talk of like, oh, these were private communications, what's the difference? Well, first of all, they were private communications between work colleagues about work. So, you know, of course, even if it was private genuinely in the private realm, still incredibly indicative of opinion, and not opinion so much as attitude. But this was work colleagues talking about transfer targets. You know, this was avert racism. And this is a fun podcast, but this is a serious topic, and it feels like football as a community should be talking about these things, because the powers that be in football ignore them. You know, you had Harry Redknapp going, he's a top lad, Malky, he's not murdered anyone or been a paedophile, you know? And it's like, well, no, but those aren't the three only status: top bloke, murderer, paedophile. Those, you know, there's stuff in between. And Malky Mackay is very clearly not a top bloke.
No, right. I thought that was very poor from Harry Redknapp, and it was football community closing in, wasn't it? Or, you know, old school football community. It's funny, in the same week, and let's not get into too much politics, but UEFA fined Dundalk FC €20,000 because a fan unfurled a Palestinian flag at one of their games, which is significantly more than they used to fine clubs for racism. They've actually shut down a couple of stands in more recent times, but the football generally has had its house well out of order when it's come to racism and sexism, of course. Richard Scudamore, Premier League chief executive, says some really offensive things in emails that his secretary leaked, and absolutely nothing happened to him. And I think everyone listening to this can imagine, even if you think, oh, well, it was only banter, imagine saying it to a work colleague and see whether you're in a job the next day, because I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be.
And if you think, oh, it's only banter, you really need to readdress. Somebody posted a thing on Twitter, it's like a Venn diagram with no overlap, just two circles, and like one side had banter and the other had like homophobia, sexism, racism. Just this, you know, it's just vile, and it makes the world a much worse place. So, yeah. Yeah,
there you go. Who thought evil genius Vincent Tan, who wears his trousers under his armpits, would turn into anti-racism campaigner, but he has.
Yeah, good lad. So I don't know if he's a good lad. That is clearly extremely undetermined.
Top bloke, top bloke, that Vincent Tan.
Yeah. So I don't know, I'm trying to work out if what you just said counts as banter or not. I think it does, see? There's no harm done. Anyway, talking of no harm done, we got a point from Sunderland. We both predicted wins on the podcast last week, but after the news conference when he announced Herrera was injured, I submitted to this thing I do every week of predicting the score and the starting lineup, and I submitted a 3-1 win to Sunderland because I thought we were in real trouble.
Oh dear! I got accused of almost every week predicting a United win on the podcast.
I saw that.
Someone on Twitter said that to me. It's like, I'm not sure that's quite true. Towards the back end of last season, I definitely predicted a couple of losses, but yes, we're probably over optimistic. You see, the thing is, you know, we spend an hour bashing United. At least we have done in the last couple of years, and then by the end of it, we have that all drained out of us, and we feel happy and relaxed again that we can, like, you know, positivity in the predictions. But go on, let's get on with the bashing, because I have to say, 1-1, and it wasn't a loss, thank God. It certainly could have been, but it was pretty dreadful.
Yeah, I think the great debate about whether Ashley Young's going to improve a lot quickly has pretty much been won. I'll concede on that one.
Well, the thing is, you know, some of what he did was not that bad, right? Going forward, he at least had some drive, and you certainly couldn't use that word with Mata, Rooney and Van Persie, who were driveless. They were very, very ponderous. And at least Ashley Young kept pushing forward. I mean, he was definitely a liability defensively. and then that horrendous dive. Some people did try and argue that there was contact.
Yeah.
There was contact while Ashley Young was flying through the air, and he happened to bump into the defender on his way.
Well, I think it was even more insidious than that. Like, I think he threw his leg towards the defender.
He's good at that. There is a skill in it, but it shouldn't be in football.
No, Van Gaal is one of the people that have said there was contact, incidentally. I've just seen. Yeah.
Has he? Right. Oh, dear. Of course, Young has dived under Ferguson, Moyes and Van Gaal now. And to a lesser and greater extent, they've either defended or put him down, but they've definitely all defended him at one time or another.
Yeah, absolutely. The only really indefensible performances, I thought, were, I guess, Rooney, Cleverley and Fletcher. Everyone else at least contributed something. But, I mean, it's hard to bash Cleverley and Fletcher because that was only ever going to go one way, wasn't it, when they were the starting midfield partnership?
Yeah. Cleverley, it's not since that run of 5 games 3 years ago now that he's been at a decent level. Right? Honestly, I'm not a Cleverley basher because my disappointment in him is that he hasn't progressed and in some ways he's gone backwards. But the comment I've always made about him is that his passing is way too safe, way too safe, right? And it's safe or bad because his confidence is shot. So it's not good. And Fletcher, we all love him and massive amount of respect for him getting back into the game. But I don't think he's going to be a premium player for United, unfortunately. I got rather a lot of abuse for, affectionately I might add, with a great deal of banter, calling him Sick Boy on Twitter. Some people didn't see behind that one, and I was called the C word rather a lot.
Yeah, people didn't like that. I don't know whether they don't get the reference or if it's too... I don't know if people think that means you kind of hate him for being ill. And I wouldn't, because we have a different approach to these things, but clearly there's no malicious intent there, is there? Likely
it's one of the nicknames that's used in the Manchester United dressing room, but if you've ever played in any sports teams, you'll know that they're crueler than primary school children. So anyway, that's a little bit of a diversion, but he wasn't very good today. Cleverley was awful. Rooney, I hate bashing him all the time because people go, oh, you hate Rooney. And there's part of that, but it was just so insipid. His performance just so insipid. I mean, at least last year he was running around like a headless chicken trying to tackle people. It offered nothing in a sort of attacking sense, but or very little. But right now, he looks flat. He looks like his season's 9 months in, not 9 days in.
He was so lively in pre-season too. I just, but anyway, I mean, I do think... partially the problem for all of the forward players that didn't play well is that midfield platform.
Yeah.
Because the ball's coming to them, Sunderland are sitting completely flat, an incredibly deep defensive line, and there's no invention from the midfield, so it's all on the strikers.
Interesting that Januzaj came into the team in central midfield. Not an area many of it. He's played twice now, one in central midfield and one at right wing back. Interesting that, but he might add some drive from there. I mean, it's the same argument around why Giggs didn't play in central midfield much until he was late. In that you can lose the ball in a risky area when you've got a player who likes to take people on from central midfield. So it's a risk. I think. If Mr. Glazer wants to get his checkbook out again, a top-class central midfielder wouldn't harm anyone. And then the other thing is Mata's a problem, right? So, and saying that, he scored 7 goals in 9 games, Gary Neville said in commentary today, since he's switched to a central area, which is a fantastic return, which is exactly what he gives you. He'll get great numbers in terms of goal scoring and assists, but he doesn't half slow the play down. So when Sunderland sat really deep and he's got a slow players around him in Rooney, I'm afraid Rooney's edging towards the slow description now these days, and Robin van Persie, and then you've got the 2 wide players in Young and Valencia who have got pace but starting from a deeper position. It all felt really ponderous and it was kind of slow and then slow, wasn't it? United's 3 speeds.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Mata is a problem. I mean, I don't even think Rooney is a problem, and I don't think Van Persie's a problem, but Mata, Rooney and Van Persie is a big problem.
Yeah. No, I think that's what I'm saying. I mean, when Tottenham Hotspur's Danny Welbeck came on, he added some pace into the attack,
Not
didn't
just
he?
Pace, but like something different, I've said this all season. I said it all the way through pre-season. United are going to be much better with Mata, Welbeck, and one of Van Persie and Rooney. That is obvious.
Yeah, I agree.
But it doesn't look like that's going to happen because of the Welbeck stuff. Now, he's been told he can leave the club. I assume that's because he said look, I want to play all the time, not because Van Gaal said, you're no good, you're out.
It's a convoluted story, but his agents are not shy about coming forward. And of course, he basically let it be known that he wanted out on Moyes' last day in charge, or day of the last game Moyes had. And his agents, who are also Wilfried Zaha's agents, are not shy about coming forward in saying what they want for their players. So he wants out. He's been agitating for a move in the parlance, and which is a shame, So part of me thinks that we should be saying there's no way Van Gaal can countenance a move for Danny Welbeck. He's a homegrown player. He's a red all through. He's going to get better. We know when he gets a chance in central areas, his scoring rate's much, much better. It's very poor from wide areas, but what did he score? 6 goals over Christmas last season. So when he gets a chance up front, if you played him all season up front, he would get more than 20 goals. I'm sure of that. There's bags and bags of talent there, but the lad wants to play, and he's not been shy about it. So he's not an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer who's happy to sit on the bench. He's not even a Javier Hernandez who's happy to sit or not happy to sit on the bench, but won't say much about it. He's wanting out.
Yeah, and I think he needs it. He needs to play every week. Like, the thing about Solskjaer was he became this really unique player by his observation of the game, essentially, and a kind of brutal natural finishing instinct, which Welbeck is an extremely gifted finisher, but he's not able to apply it consistently. When he's on his game, his finishing is excellent, So he needs to be the centre forward somewhere, and so I can't really blame him for wanting out in spite of his. And lots of people are saying like, "Oh, you're in and around the United first team. What more do you want?" It's like, well, he wants to be the player he feels he can become, and if he knows he can't become that as third choice striker. Now, the flip side of that is you think that if he's genuinely third choice striker, he's going to get a lot of games because Rooney and Van Persie are not going to play all the way through the season together. But you think Januzaj, even Di Maria coming in now, Mata, Kagawa, there's a lot of potential options, isn't there? So it's not like he's going to play every time Rooney and Van Persie don't.
So it depends a lot on the tactical makeup of United. Playing 3-5-2, he will play a lot of games, right? Because Rooney and Van Persie get injured. And I don't think Hernandez is necessarily the kind of forward that Van Gaal likes, is he? He's not an all-rounder at all. So it looked for sure that Hernandez was the one out. Yes, Januzaj could play up there. I think Januzaj's got so much talent that he could force his way into the team, but there isn't necessarily a natural place for him in this tactical makeup. Di Maria... When I hear people say, "Oh, he could play in the Robin role," I think they're people who haven't seen much of Di Maria. So he's a fantastic world-class talent. Horrible cliche, but he is, and he gets a huge amount of assists. But there's 2 roles he can play: wide left, and in a 3-man midfield. You don't play him behind the strikers. But as for Welbeck, he's got this all-round game. He offers more than Hernandez for me. It would be mad just from a squad point of view to let him go, but you can understand if Van Gaal doesn't see him as number 1 choice or number 2 choice, and he's got to that point in his career when he wants to kick on, then you can understand that he wants to go.
The Sunderland game was woeful. I thought there was a couple of positives. That Smalling had a really bad first half, and I mean, it's easy to sort of lump that into Chris Smalling not being up to it, but he was injured all the way through most of it. And I thought that in the second half, Jones, Keane and Blackett, that was a really effective back 3. Phil Jones, man of the match 2 games in a row, with Blackett not too far behind, I think, for me.
Blackett's very, very composed, isn't he? I mean, I'm sure he's going to make quite a lot of mistakes. He's learning. It's his second actual full-time proper game for United. Michael Keane's first, his Premier League debut. And he was very composed as well, so had a much better game than Chris Smalling. And we'll throw the caveat in there that Smalling was injured, of course. But I think everyone thinks he's a talent too. The challenge for both of them, highly inexperienced in a position where experience counts. But there you go. Right now, they both have the play. See, Rojo will be available soon, whenever he gets his work permit, assuming he does. He's played 40 times for Argentina, so that shouldn't be a problem. Sidebar here. United used to apply for a work permit before they'd actually officially signed the player, effectively getting pre-approval. Something's gone wrong with the paperwork here.
I mean, you're right, but they looked better than their more experienced counterparts, didn't they, in that role, and just played it very effective. And in a way, yes, it does require experience, but the advantage of youth is flexibility and willingness to learn and capacity to learn. because you're in the habit of learning new things all the time at that age, aren't you? So they've got that going for them, and it was nice to see. And I thought Jones was extremely assured again, and out of all of our defenders, he's the one who looks like he's got this back three thing cracked.
Well, look, I think we always thought that Jones had so much natural talent that it would go right for him once he got a run in his proper position, right? Not being playing right back on central midfield all the time. And I think he's going to, if it carries on, he's going to finish the season as a properly top-class central defender because he's got it within him. Although, of course, Paul Scholes said this week that he'd rather see Jones playing at right back or central midfield. So it just goes to prove you may be a brilliant player, but you don't know it all.
No, I just love Paul Scholes, and sometimes he gets things exactly spot on, and sometimes he seems to say things that seem completely crazy. Like, Jones is so much better at centre-half than he is anywhere else. But anyway, we've talked about that more than enough, haven't we?
So, what else to say about the game? Nice run and cross from Antonio Valencia for United's goal. And then defensive problems not picking up for the equaliser.
Yeah, but I was very pleased that Sunderland didn't get a counter-attacking winner, because I feel like that is what was all set to happen in the script there.
Well, yeah. It was a bit cup-tie, wasn't it, in the last sort of 15 minutes? Quite open, more open than you'd expect. Given that a lot of the game felt like United were playing out for a 0-0 draw, because it was a very, very one-tempoed. But is that a word? Well, it is now. Bants, there you go, super bants.
The other thing to mention about that game is that about the 89th minute, the @ManUnited account tweeted something like, I think it was the 87th minute, 87 minutes gone here. In truth, Sunderland look the more likely winners, which, I don't even think was necessarily true, but B, that's a remarkable admission from the official account, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Well, I think there were just chances created. I mean, it was a bit mad at the end, wasn't it? Keystone Cops, United firing in the shots and could have won it, but Sunderland created a few opportunities near the end too. So yeah, I mean, Sunderland could easily have won that game. It didn't happen in the end, and point to point, I suppose. Not that great in the wider context, given that not only have United played a couple of sides that were close to relegation last season, but we've got the 3 newly promoted sides coming up, right? So Moyes may have complained about having a tough opening set of fixtures. Van Gaal can't, but it means that the tougher games come later. Yeah,
but, I just think the season is about to look a whole heap different, because actually, we signed Di Maria, and so should we move on to talking about transfers? Because that's the hotness, isn't it?
Let's do a cracking few lines from Van Gaal about transfers. He's been remarkably open. Well, sort of open and sort of not. So he talked a little bit about it, and also at one stage claimed he was also looking at Messi. So I think he was like giving the media a bit of a jibe.
There's a context to that though, because what he said was, "I like Messi and I like Vidal also." It's interesting because 2 weeks ago he said, "I don't have enough good wingers. I like Ronaldo and I like Di Maria also." So you get rid of the two that are like each other. Vidal's coming too.
Yeah, well, who knows? I mean, Woodward's got the checkbook out. We spent many years on this pod and on the website complaining about the Glazer family's parsimony, and you can't really accuse them of that this summer. 120 odd million pounds will be spent if Di Maria comes. It looks like it's a massive fee, somewhere in the 60 odd million range plus add-ons, which is interesting. So it looks like if some of the reports are right, that United haven't actually agreed the fee yet. At least that's what they're briefing. B, even if they're not telling the truth and it's somewhere close to what some other people are saying, like, for example, the similar figure to James Rodriguez, then it's a huge amount of money, and it reflects the fact that United are desperate, so paying a little bit of a premium, even if they are the only real bidders in town now. They'll also be paying a premium to the player, I would suspect, to compensate him for the lack of European football.
Yep, and I have zero problem with any of that.
No, it's right. It's what's got to be done. It's what everyone's saying. You can't climb back into the top 4 on the cheap, I'm afraid. I mean, there's a very close linear relationship between spending money and success, however you determine that, but points gained per match. and simply that's what United have to do right now.
Yeah, so the thing about that Sunderland game is none of Shaw, Herrera or Rojo were available. The Rojo thing seems like there might have been a further bit of bureaucratic incompetence because he didn't have a work permit signing almost a week ago, which doesn't seem like the paperwork was done very well there. But,
Nope.
I mean, the Di Maria thing, I don't know, I'm reluctant to talk about it as a done deal because it's not, scarf aloft and all that. Ron Atkinson signing on the pitch next to him. No, in fact, no, keep Ron Atkinson out of football. But anyway, metaphorically, that hasn't happened, but it's looking pretty good, isn't it?
Well, I don't think there are any other bidders in town. So Di Maria's, well, of course, he's Jorge Mendes, his client, and they were shilling him around Europe trying to drum up some other interest. And it's been played out as he was desperate to sign for Manchester City, which is not the case. They're just simply trying to make sure that United are not the only bidders and therefore can knock the wages down. So it's actually the first time United have done a proper deal with Jorge Mendes since Bebe. So they did a deal for David De Gea, who became a Mendes client but wasn't when the negotiations were taking place. So it was Hector Rincon at the time. Then became a Mendes client, and then he's no longer a Mendes client, and that's it. So there was certainly some interesting relationships between the two parties for 4 years or so there, but maybe they're all friends now because he'll be getting a massive kickback on this deal.
Absolutely. I've just translated a tweet from Xabi Alonso where he's basically saying congratulations to Angel Di Maria and wishing him luck at United. But the translate thing says, "Thank you for all noodles. I wish you well, even if it is in the Man United. We will never forget the zigzag of the extension in Lisbon." Not sure Translate's got that one spot on. But anyway, it looks like Di Maria is coming, in which case the squad has been strengthened enormously in the course of the summer.
Yeah.
We've bought a central midfielder, a left-back, a centre-back who can also play left-back, and a winger who can also play in midfield. I mean...
Also lost 8 players, but hey.
Well, I mean, we have, but have we lost anyone? I mean, Vidic and Ferdinand, you both would have kept, right? And I'd have kept, I'd have kept Evra too as a squad player, but ultimately they're players that needed to be refreshed, right?
Right. So I have no problem with Ferdinand going. I think it's probably the right time. Vidic, I think, could have stayed on another year, and Evra I'd have definitely kept on another year. But it's not just that. I mean, you lose 1,200 games or so there, and then another 1,000 with Ryan Giggs having retired, and then some squad stuff, So, sure, the rest of the players aren't that important, but Nani, you've lost some talent, if not the application. So talent is nothing without the application. So, of course, maybe a lot of people will feel we haven't lost much there. Anderson will definitely go, and Lindegaard will go too. He's been given a free transfer. Federico Makeda has gone. Who else has gone? So I think we might end up with about 12 having left by the end of the window. So we're quite a few numbers down and quite a lot on experience down. 4 very good players have come in. So, and they're all players that have effectively been bought for the first team, not for squad filler, which is good because that's not always been the case. So, one, you can't really complain about the lack of money being spent, and two, there's some high quality come in. The problem is the degradation in the United squad has been such that it doesn't feel like quite enough just yet. No,
there's been talk that United are confident on Blint, so who knows, and one midfielder, and the thing is, that's the key that makes the whole, that's the final piece of the puzzle, right? I mean, not to make us like Real Madrid, because we're a long way off that, and there's a lot of work to do to get us back there, but to make us competitive and not really in trouble, we still need another in centre midfield, because Herrera and one of the existing players, basically none of the existing centre midfielders are good enough to play centre midfield for Man United, assuming Carrick doesn't get back to his very best.
Yeah, there are still some big holes in the squad. It's an interesting set of purchases. Paul Scholes didn't believe they were the right ones. He said this week that he was asked about Fabregas and Cruz, and of course if Fabregas and Cruz had come in, you'd be buying kind of a guarantee, you know exactly what you were getting. Herrera, as I've said many times, my 2 observations about him is that I think there'll be times when United don't feel he's doing enough because he's not spectacular. So I think he's a fine signing for United. Doesn't score enough goals, which is probably why Van Gaal is trying him in a deeper position. Sometimes that might look like he's playing a number 10 at number 8. We'll see. Time will tell with that one. Rojo wasn't their first choice. He was third or fourth choice as far as I can work out, but again, he fits the profile, as Van Gaal would say. He's a left back or a left central defender, can play across the back three. We'll see, how that one turns out. It's going to be a tough gig for him, I think. It's a steep learning curve, so it might not be a universally successful first season, but Van Gaal has been very positive about him. Luke Shaw, I think, is got class all over him. He needs to get fit, clearly, and then unlucky to be called out for being unfit and then getting injured, not good. And then Di Maria's just all kinds of class, but he's the most interesting of all of them, really, because he poses some interesting tactical questions. So it's much, much harder to see where he's going to play in this current 3-5-2 or 3-4-1-2 system than it is in a 4-3-3. But Van Gaal's got to work that one out. A nice problem to have.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I was thinking about that phrase, nice problem to have. And at what point does a nice problem to have just become a big problem? Because we've sort of in a bit of that nice problem to have situation up front, but it's making us make all these massive changes, which are causing not nice problems to have elsewhere. So he's shoehorning in Mata, Rooney and Van Persie at the expense of, defensive solidity or whatever. Yep. One note on defensive solidity. You tweeted before the game, can't accuse Van Gaal of not being attacking. 5 attacking players on, and then he took off Fletcher and put on Januzaj to play in the centre of the park. I loved it. I think it's just going to be fun. I think it's going to get more fun. And last season did not feel like a transitional season. Last season felt like a complete catastrophe. But this seems to be genuinely laying the foundation for a transitional season, because all of these signings are signings that will bed in, grow. You've got a coach with this very established way of doing things that takes a little bit of time and then kicks in. You were saying during pre-season it showed how quickly a manager can make a difference, and even though it hasn't exactly been good, he already has made a difference in terms of the way United have used the ball. Van Gaal hasn't had the personnel to make the system work yet, but it's coming. And I think the Di Maria thing, it's interesting because he basically called Di Maria out when he said why he wasn't playing a 4-3-3. So you do wonder if this is the first step, and it's Herrera, someone, and Mata behind Di Maria, Januzaj, and one of Rooney or Van Persie. And
that's the question, isn't it? Because the big questions are Rooney and Mata. They're the two square pegs, trying to ram them into round holes. Mata, it's really hard for him to play in a classical 4-3-3. Basically, because unless you're going to play with a couple of holding players, which I guess they're looking to try and convert Herrera to. We know that he doesn't play well in one of those wide areas. That's why Mourinho binned him. He wouldn't do the tracking back and slowed things down. So you're going to end up playing with. You've got to have the right platform for him to play in that 4-3-3. And then if you do that, where does Rooney play? Rooney plays on the wing, I guess. One of Rooney or Van Persie play, right? And that can't happen. Because I really think that playing Rooney on the wing and Di Maria on the other wing, it's like all the joy of playing Di Maria is ruined by having Rooney out of position, because that's just not going to work, is it? So here's my solution to this, okay. Right? And it involves the bench and Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
And it will solve a lot of problems, because I think Januzaj he's really coming into his own. I think this is a big season for him. And if your default starting 11 was Di Maria, Van Persie, Januzaj up front, Mata, Herrera, and you'd need another player, because I think you'd be in a lot of trouble if Carrick's in there. Not that I'm having a go at Carrick, but and he does a nice defensive screening job, but it's going to feel a little bit lightweight. You're not giving the right kind of base there. So,
but Vidal.
Vidal. Yeah. I mean, maybe you'd squeeze Messi in there. No. Vidal would give you that kind of energy and physical presence, and then all of a sudden you've got a very fine attacking base there, and the central defence might still be a problem. We'll see how Rojo beds in, whether he can play in a 2 at Premier League level, or he ends up competing for the left back spot with Luke Shaw. We'll see.
I mean, the thing is, Phil Jones has been wonderful in these 2 games, and history tells us that what happens is sometime in the next 5 games he's going to get an injury that makes him miss 6. You know, that's been the pattern thus far, hasn't it? So we just hope that pattern is broken. And one of the things I really liked about his performance today was he wasn't chucking himself into challenges. He was really measured. And I feel like that is so important because of keeping himself fit.
So I wonder what Di Maria thought watching that game today. So
lots of tweets of like playing trails, making a sudden about turn and going the other way.
So you know, part of his ego might be polished up, saying, you know, he's going to be one of the big guys already straight away in this team, right? I mean, clearly when you pay £60 million for a player, that's what you kind of expect, but he'll be second only to Rooney in terms of wages at United, and he's going to be a very, very important player. So whereas at Madrid, the shiny new thing has come along and they've dumped him for the shiny new thing. So part of it's that, and part of it's he's going to see Fletcher and Cleverley in midfield and Ashley Young and Antonio Valencia on the wings and think, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hopefully that's not what's going to happen.
Or Jesus Christo.
I think the other thing is he's a footballer, so he's probably going to think, I'm going to make these lots so much better, you know, by turning up. And hopefully he's not the last signing. Like, it feels greedy at this point, but it's really important. And I would definitely take like a Nigel de Jong, very straightforward, simple centre midfield signing. Just, you know, de Jong and Herrera behind Mata, that works in a 3, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, honestly, I just don't think de Jong's good enough. But I suppose if it gets down to the final day and we're desperate, we just actually need the numbers. It's a slippery road, that one, isn't it? Though, because United, and you're right, this will be a transitional season, but it's a transitional season in which United have to finish in the top 4. There really is no other option. And buying mediocre players is a road to mediocrity, generally speaking. But De Jong might be better in there than a Fellaini or an Anderson.
And, you know, one of the things that's happened in the past week that I think is really significant to United is Balotelli's gone to Liverpool. That's officially done, right? Or is it just very nearly officially done?
Yeah, €20 million, hasn't signed the paperwork yet, but it'll be done early next week.
I think that's an extremely significant signing because Balotelli at his best is a really genuinely electrifying player. He isn't at his best all the time, but they have, you know, the signing of Balotelli changes all the other signings, if you know what I mean. Because the rest of the signings, we were kind of thinking, well, they've replaced Suarez, but nobody who can hit that level. But now they've basically replaced Suarez with Balotelli and a bunch of people that aren't at Suarez's level. And like, if it works, that is a top 4 place that is, you know, it's going to be harder for United to overturn.
Yeah.
I think that's a significant signing.
Well, it is. I mean, he's only ever scored over 20 goals in the season once. So, you know, maybe it will come good. I think there's a lot of question marks over that one, and a lot of question marks generally about Liverpool. So if I was trying to make an educated guess, I'd say that they'll slip quite a long way from their level. But, you know, you talk about replacing 31 goals. I suppose you only really need to score another 15 and then save 15. And in Lovren, they should be a lot more sound defensively. So maybe they'll get within a few points of where they were last season. I have a feeling it's going to be very, very tight for 4th. I don't think there's any guarantees, even with Di Maria in the United side, that we'll get there. Well, one journalist said this week that he has a sense that, and this is a Dutch journalist, he has a sense that Van Gaal is in panic mode, or maybe he didn't use the word panic, but it's emergency mode, right? So this is emergency measures playing through at the back. This is not what he wants to do, and he's just trying to get United through because he realises quite how bad the United squad is, you know? So all that stuff about giving everyone a chance and assessing the squad was really just for the media. In reality, I'm sure he's told the owners what's needed, and, you know, Woodward has got a week in order to get United some more players, because Blint might do it. I mean, certainly, you know, I think there's a few question marks over his pace and his, you know, whether he's top quality, but his versatility will be very useful. You know, Dutch John O'Shea, isn't he? And then Vidal would be a cherry on the icing on the cake, right? That's the signing that turns United from risking not making the top four to definitely making the top four.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
But it's all very greedy talking like that.
Yeah, there's a few things. It was Elko Born that said that, and he's absolutely right, isn't he? Because 3-5-2, the only reason Van Gaal played 3-5-2 with Holland was Strootman got injured. He would just never have played that otherwise. It would have been 4-3-3 all the way, as it had been up to that point. And there's no way he would play 3-5-2 with United if it wasn't for trying to fit that it had worked for him so well for Holland, and it was a natural fit in theory for Mata, Rooney and Van Persie. But I don't think it's going to take Van Gaal long to twig that is not the way. It's just that particular aspect of the 3-5-2 is going to continue to be problematic. And as for the transfer window, the one thing I wanted to talk about was Ed Woodward for a minute, because there was a big Glazers out protest kind of roared up in the aftermath of the Swansea game, which felt super weird timing wise, because felt like, oh, you know what, if we'd won that game, the situation would have been the same, and people wouldn't have been saying that stuff about the Glazers. It's like the Glazer ownership has been a complete disaster for United. We've averted the fact that the disaster it could have been more by luck than judgment.
Yeah, well, and a lot of luck basically in the financial. So it's some very good judgment as well on the commercial side of things. So my feeling on this one is that Glazers out is for life, not just for a transfer window. And the apathy just is one of the things that annoys me almost as much as the Glazers do. Right? Don't suddenly get angry about this when you haven't given a damn before.
And the other thing that swept around was this real antipathy towards Woodward. Not like antipathy's a Glazer stooge. We know that. He earns a lot of that antipathy by virtue of the fact that he's the one that organised the leverage buyout, and now he's living high off the hog and getting to play out his childhood fantasy, basically, because he completely screwed the club. But the kind of notion that he's completely incompetent in the transfer window. There's certainly been a massive dip in competence since Gill left, because Gill had become a football man by the time he left United, albeit he didn't start as one, but he had become one, and his job at UEFA kind of proves that. But anyway, if the transfer window, he signed Shaw, Herrera, Rojo, Di Maria, and a central midfielder.
Yep.
Can we really say that Woodward's had a terrible, incompetent transfer window?
Well, no, because I guess the outcome will be very positive if that all happens. So my argument would be that there's been very little in the way of thought out process and plan and strategy here, and it feels very, very scattergun. I'm not sure that Van Gaal, when he told United he would be joining in mid-May, said, "Get me Di Maria." Right, I think this is an opportunistic signing. I think a lot of them have been. So that's my essential problem, right? So I think people boil it down to, well, Woodward must be rubbish at negotiating. So and it feels very naive, that, because this is a team game. It's team assessment from the scouts through the manager to the executive team negotiating. And it's contacts within Europe, and that's been part of Woodward's problem, that he's been played because he's not had that contact base. So to answer your question, it's hard to call it a disaster, because if United sign another couple of players, because they've signed a lot of players and spent a lot of money and bought a lot of quality, but you have to caveat it with, I'm not sure there was a real strategy here. And when you look at each, there are many reasons that United have secured these players, and a lot of it's to do with overpaying, or paying a premium, I should say. So Luke Shaw paid a massive premium, so much so, in fact, that Chelsea were scared off, which is interesting, and paid the buyout clause for Herrera, the buyout clause that they weren't prepared to pay last year because they deemed him not worth the money. It looked like they're going to pay over £60 million for Di Maria, who's not a nice way of putting it, but effectively a Real Madrid cast-off. And we'll see what happens with the rest of them. Paid a lot of money for Rojo, played in one of the smaller leagues in Europe. So, you can praise Woodward, and you can also say, well, hang on a minute, he's paid a very heavy price for these players.
Yeah, and because football gets taken in black and white, I just want to make it abundantly clear that what I'm not saying is it means he had a wonderful, excellent, perfect transfer window, because it's like people only have two settings, right? But no, it's like he had a flawed but ultimately, what's the word I'm looking for?
Productive.
That's exactly the word I was looking for. A flawed but ultimately productive transfer window. And
semi-productive at this point, if he signs Di Maria and another one.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, even like if it's only Di Maria, and that is proper spoiled football fan, and it only Di Maria. Can we just talk about Di Maria for a minute? Because we've mentioned him, but like I am beside myself excited about it. You know how there are like big players, and I mean this doesn't apply to you because you watch so much football. I watch a lot less European football than you do, and so there are players who I've never seen had a good game, like Franck Ribéry. I totally believe he's a really good player, and it's just that I haven't seen it, but I very rarely have I ever seen Franck Ribéry have a good game. For a long time I'd never seen Karim Benzema have a good game, another wonderful player, but I just caught him on a number of bad days. Angel Di Maria is like the opposite. I've only ever seen him have a good day, except maybe a couple of times in the World Cup in part of that midfield three.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought he had a pretty good World Cup. Not a spectacular one, but he was absolutely brilliant for Real Madrid last season. 17 assists in the league alone, and man of the match in the Champions League final. So, I mean, I was being glib when I said he was a Real Madrid cast-off. He's a guy at the top of his game, 26 years old, and United paying a massive fee for him. So this has rarely happened in the history of Manchester United, that we've gone out and bought a player right at his peak. I think the last time, in all honesty, was Juan Sebastian Veron. If you're talking about buying a player from one of the top European leagues, and that one didn't work out too well. I suspect this one will. I think Di Maria and United will work out very, very well indeed, and I'm looking forward to it. I think he's a very, very exciting player. The one criticism, and it's a fair one, and the one that means that he is not a Robben for the Robben role, is that he doesn't score enough goals. He just doesn't score that many. I mean, he hasn't got into double figures very often.
We kind of don't really need players to get on the end of chances. We've got players that can do that. We need players who are going to make chances consistently. And he'll certainly do that, won't he? So
he certainly will, yeah. And, maybe this will work out for Madrid. They're getting a very good deal, very good fee. I mean, they paid a mega fee for James Rodriguez, of course. It looks like they're still chasing Falcao, who would be a very fine signing for them as well. So, I don't know whether they're just trying to balance the books or find money for Falcao. So either way, they're going to get a lot of money from United for him. But United are going to get a very fine player, and we're desperate enough that we have to pay that 60 million rather than 40 million or whatever it might have been in other circumstances. One side note on Falcao. Not only is he a brilliant striker, but his Twitter handle is @Falcao, all in capital letters.
Nice. Is he Neo in disguise? One for the Twitterati there. The thing about this transfer window is you wonder how much of the paying of a premium is down to some sort of incompetence and lack of negotiation, and how much of it is simply the fact that we're not offering Champions League football. United are in the worst negotiating position they've been for transfer targets in living memory.
Yeah. Let's go for the latter, right? And give everyone the benefit of the doubt and say, even if you had Daniel Levy negotiating on your behalf, and I've no idea if he really is a great negotiator, he certainly has that reputation, that United would have had to pay some premiums this summer, especially to the players, but also to the selling clubs, because everyone knows that the club's desperate and absolutely has to get back into the Champions League because the business model is so completely tied up with that global exposure.
And whatever you say about Di Maria, like however many tops you put before the word player, he is an elite level player, and elite level transfer fees have gone completely bananas. And like you could definitely argue that Di Maria is. This is not me doing the thing that football fans do of saying that their signings are better than other signings, but Di Maria is more proven than James Rodriguez, right? He's a more proven entity at the top level of European football. Not that I'm saying he's a better signing, I'm just saying that is the case,
Yes, absolutely. I'm not sure there's much doubt that James Rodriguez will be a huge hit at Real Madrid. Already scored for them, hasn't he? Although he's a more difficult fit because you're not quite sure exactly where he'll play for them in the system that Ancelotti has tended to play, a sort of 4-3-3 system. But they'll find a place because he's wonderfully talented. But that's aside, right? So United are going to get, assuming there's no last-minute hitches, United are going to get a very, very high-quality player who creates absolutely tons of goals, whether he's playing in central midfield or sort of, in a three-man midfield, which will be difficult with Mata in the side, or in a 4-3-3, which will be much easier. He's going to create lots and lots of goals for United, Shame he doesn't score more, but I think we kind of know what the kind of player he is.
Yeah, absolutely. So exciting times potentially there for sure. And hopefully by the time the next Rantcast is recorded, there will have been the scarf held aloft moment, and there won't be the horrible, the deal all fell apart and somebody gazumped us and we were all crying moment.
No. One last note on transfers. Nani's gone. And, I mean, this is a player who's just been so hugely frustrating for 7 years, right? Yeah, a player who's got it all, who can score spectacular goals. He's a match winner, as Ferguson said. He's got all the talent, the pace, the tricks, the ability to score goals and never put it together. And he hasn't put it together to such an extent that United are paying £5 million a year in wages just to have him play for someone else. And no fee involved either. And they signed him to a 5-year contract not 12 months ago.
Ferguson said he is a match winner, but it's more accurate to say that he was a match winner. He hasn't been a match winner for United for such a long time. He's put in maybe 3 good performances in the last 2 years.
No, that's fair enough. But the essential nuttiness about this is that they signed him up to a 5-year contract last summer, essentially to protect his transfer fee, only to send him out on loan for free while paying his wages.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's actually just adding 5 million to the value of the Rojo transfer, right? That's what it is effectively doing. Worth pointing out that in his debut for Sporting Lisbon, he missed a penalty, got a yellow card, and was substituted off in the 77th minute. But did you see the reception he got?
Heroes welcome.
Yeah, it's like they'd re-signed Ronaldo or something. I think they're going to be pretty disappointed. But it'd be lovely if he could get it together because, you know, at his best in that 2011 season, that sort of 2010 to halfway through 2011, he was like electric, wasn't he?
Yeah, for that short period of time. And I mean, one of his major problems has been Antonio Valencia, so just hasn't played on the right as much as, you know, he can be very effective on the left, Nani, cutting in and shooting, but never had the same consistency of performances as when he's playing on the right-hand side. And yeah, just a couple of bursts. It was the 1 year he was the Players' Player of the Year at United, right? And didn't get into the PFA nominations at all, which was a surprise. But apart from that, just such a poor return on what was a very large transfer fee. Slightly better, only slightly better than Anderson, who's still at the club. No one will buy him. No one. We can't even give him away for free anymore.
No. He wouldn't go to Flamengo because he's worried about them not paying his wages, apparently. But anyway,
he's been stealing wages for 7 years. Give some back, man.
Should we take some Twitter questions from the good people?
Yeah, they're not all good. Bants.
They're not all good, but most of them are. If they're listening to this, they're probably good, I reckon. At Brandon Ulrich 2, who definitely is good, says he's very serious about this. He loves the Di Maria signing, which hasn't happened yet, but is he worthy of the number 7 shirt, in your opinion? And it's really, like, I had to write a thing for the Bleacher Report this week about Adnan Januzaj being in the number 11 shirt, and I quite like all the shirt number sentimentality and all the silliness that goes on around it. I'm a bit of a sucker for all that stuff, but... The number 7 shirt's previous 2 occupants have been Antonio Valencia and Michael Owen. So Angel Di Maria is definitely better than those 2. You know.
Well, yes. So if you put it in the context of best, Cantona, Beckham,
Ronaldo, remember him?
Ronaldo, yeah. No, he was all right. He did all right. Koppel, yeah, some special players there. Maybe not that Ronaldo chap. Then yeah, sure, there's a debate, but yeah, in the context of Valencia and Owen, yeah, just give them the shirt number. It's not a big deal, really, is it?
No, except it's like we want a kind of cool player that gets us out of our seats in that shirt number, right? If possible, yeah. And we've got one of those, so definitely. Well, we haven't got him yet, but hopefully we'll be getting him. At Mickey Sixchins says, "What's the best angel? Mine is angel cake." Good answer. I quite like snow angels. You know, when you lie on your back in the snow and make the snow angel. I think that's a good look. Yeah. What's your favourite kind of angel?
Angel delight. No.
It's
really? It's really not.
That's really bad. Angel from Tekken as well. It was quite good. Jay McKeown Esquire says, "Do you think Ed would be a good guy to work for?" I'm trying to work out if he means you or Ed Woodward. So I'm going to say, yes, Ed Woodward would probably quite an easygoing boss because he doesn't seem to expect much from his staff. Lol, bants.
Whereas I'm a total...
I think Ed would be an excellent boss, very understanding. You get your work done. He'd be all right with delegation, wouldn't you, Ed?
Sure, yeah.
At Phil and I'm not even... Oh, yeah, Phil Anwell, there you go, says, do you think Nick Powell has a career at United? Everyone seems to have forgotten about him. Yeah, I think the drink driving thing really hurt Nick Powell. That's my estimation.
The not being fit very much thing also hurts him quite a bit too.
Yeah.
I mean, he played at Wigan up front basically last year, and he's not getting in the team up front. He could do with another loan, and that'll be his last chance to really impress and force his way in next season. Otherwise, he's done, I'd say.
Okay, I think that's a pretty fair shout. And also, like, what a nightmare to try and... What a terrible position to be trying to break into United, you know, behind the strikers.
Well, might only have two strikers. Once Welbs is officially Tottenham Hotspur's Danny Welbeck, and Chicharito's off in a swap deal for Vidal.
What do you make of Januzaj not in the starting 11? Asks Moods of Eric.
Yeah, I think it's mostly about tactics.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
He could force his way in, but we'll see. I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, he could force his way in Juan Mata's place, I suppose. I presume he'll play against MK Dons in the Capital One Cup.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in just a second. At JSF_7, the last Twitter question of the week, says, who will complete the most Rabonas by the end of the season between Rojo and Di Maria? I think there's no question it will be Di Maria, because, Rojo did that brilliant Rabona clearance in the World Cup, but Di Maria is an absolute beast for a Rabona.
I tell you what, if he's... no, I won't go there.
Yeah, so Di Maria is going to win the Rabona challenge. But everyone, if you could keep a running tally, that would be much appreciated. And we'll come back to this at the end of the season. So, you mentioned the MK Dons game. That's Tuesday night action. A great away day for everyone. Get to go to Milton Keynes. I'm sure there'll be tons of Reds there, and it'll be one of those excellent away nights.
Oh, true. You get there by going round a roundabout, and then another one, and then you go round another roundabout, and then you go round another one, and then...
They are the most fake team in the world, aren't they? They're like a stolen team. So I hope we absolutely batter them, to be honest. But anyway.
Well, they were Franchise FC until Manchester City actually went and created a bunch of franchises of fake new clubs around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is the starting 11 going to look like?
I've absolutely no idea. I assume he's going to play exactly the same formation because he's trying to get everyone playing that formation, and I guess a bunch of younger players and people who haven't played much will get a go, right? So there's no real imperative for United to start resting people just yet, and the squad's reasonably small because there's so many injuries. So I'd say a mix of players who haven't had much game time and some younger players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Nick at Man United Youth was saying on the Red Mancunian podcast that he would just like him to play a proper young team full of under-21s and stuff. They beat a League One side in pre-season, United's under-21s, although as we all have come to discover, if we didn't know it already, pre-season can be, your results may vary, as it were, but the idea of playing like Ben Pearson and maybe Pereira, and it'd be good, right? It'd be fun.
It would be, yeah, and MK Dons, aside from the fact that they're completely fake and they stole a club, they play some decent football, and Carl Robinson's a very, very young up-and-coming manager. I couldn't say I know too many of their players very well. I don't watch an awful lot of League One football, but it should be a good run out for United, and you'd expect United to win whoever turns up.
I don't know that I expect United to win anymore, but you would think it would be possible. It'd be great to see Januzaj given a really pivotal role in that. I think one of the reasons he hasn't played that much so far is also about fitness, right? Because he was one of the players given the longer holiday after the World Cup. So
yeah.
Wasn't on the tour and all that. So that the MK Dons, I don't feel like I can add much to a preview of that because of not having done any research about how they're doing or what they're like or what the deal is.
Well, wasn't Luke Chadwick playing there? I don't think he's there anymore, but he was there last year. Which is a real shame that he's not still there, because we could have had a reunion with
an emotional reunion it would have been too. The next Roy Keane, right? One of the many next Roy Keanes, Luke Chadwick.
Well, more of a sprightly winger, scared people with his facial problems.
I'm thinking of Liam Miller. That's the Roy Keane.
He was definitely the next Roy Keane.
And then we've got a proper game the weekend against Burnley. I guess the League Cup's got some importance because we've got no ability to rotate with the Champions League, so it'd be useful to have a League Cup run. And it's the whole thing of Mourinho's first season at Chelsea. That was the first trophy he won. It's the first trophy the Rooney and Ronaldo generation won at United, and blah, blah, blah. So it's got all that significance to it. It'd be good. But ultimately, it's the League Cup, so if we lose, who cares? But the Burnley game at the weekend, really important. I seem to remember an early season away trip to Burnley that didn't go too well not that long ago.
Right, yeah. Lunchtime kickoff, isn't it? One of those. I'm not sure that's always been United's friend, and away at Burnley, tight crowd. Very, very good crowd there at Burnley, so I think it'll be a tough game for United. It shouldn't be, right? They're one of the newly promoted sides, but they had a bad result against Chelsea. They're going to find it very tough in the Premier League. Of course they are. Sean Dyche is surely one of the favourites for being sacked first, because that is the pattern, isn't it, for newly promoted sides. But they've given United a tough game on the few occasions that we've been there in recent times.
Yeah, you mentioned it was a bad result against Chelsea, but it certainly wasn't a bad performance from what it looked like on the highlights. They gave Chelsea a scare, and they put in a good shift. And and then they lost again at the weekend and were again fairly impressive. And United are vulnerable, right? And it's the best time they could possibly be facing us. They'll be delighted to be playing us now, and they won't be scared. I'm sure of that. Yeah.
So I mean, look, United's level has to go up. Surely it must, and we'll have another week's worth of Van Gaal inspired tactical sessions to try and get them in the right frame of mind to go out there and actually create some chances. So what he has to do is he has to get this side playing at a higher tempo in attacking areas of the pitch. It was so one-paced against Sunderland. It was pretty scary, really. And in many ways people think of the 3-5-2 system as a kind of reactive system, playing on the break system, but United are also securing 60% of possession, so we have to do something with that. A lot of it's down to that triumvirate of Van Persie, Rooney and Mata. Can it do the business against Burnley? You'd think so.
I mean, I think even more of it is to do with whoever the two are behind them. I really do think that's what the key is to unlocking some good work out of the front three.
Yeah, and clearly tomorrow we're going to put in a £50 million bid for Vidal, and he'll be signed on and he can make his debut against Burnley next weekend, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to win 4-0. No, I am going to predict. It's time for us to do some predictions. And we've done the hour of bashing United, so it's time to predict some wins. I am going to predict a win. I'm going to predict a 2-1 win over MK Dons. Everyone's going to be tearing their hair out at the end of that one, but I think we're going to scrape through. And then against Burnley, I'm going to predict a 1-1 draw. There you go, person. There you go, person on the internet who complained about us predicting wins every week.
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to predict 2 wins. So I think United will beat MK Dons. I've no idea. Let's say 2-0, just because it's a number. And then I think United will go and win at Burnley 2-1.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Very good.
And we better start winning, because I've been predicting wins and goal scorers just as a laugh in the United Route £1 bet club, which I haven't actually told anyone about yet. But I'm now £2 down. It's disgraceful.
It's a bad start. Bad start.
The worst I can lose is about 40-something pounds this year, so I think I can swallow it.
Okay. And presumably at some point you will luck your way into a result to offset that. But
yeah,
we'll see. Okay, so if you want to get hold of us in between now and next week, you can get us on Twitter at UTD Rantcast for me, at United Rant for Ed. You can read my stuff on the Bleach Report if you want to, and you can read Ed's stuff and a bunch of other excellent United analysis at unitedrant.co.uk. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/UnitedRant. And if you want to help out with the bandwidth costs for the show, because no one's paying us £60 million transfer fees, it's unitedrant.co.uk/donate.
Right, very good. Well, let's hope 2 wins, and we'll be back to you with an hour of talking about how wonderful United are, and we don't need Angel Di Maria or Arturo Vidal.
No, he'll be a United player by then.
Maybe he'll make his debut against Burnley. Could well be, if it's done early in the week. He could well be.
Not with Woodward doing the paperwork. But until next week, ladies and gentlemen, we'll leave you with this.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.